All right. Okay, we're going to give people about 1 minute to share it out. We would appreciate if you would share it out if these shows resonate with you, because we are being severely suppressed at the moment. But that's okay. We're going to make it. I'm going to put on a short intro and allow a few more people to come in and allow everybody to share, if they would, to a group or to their page. Thank you. All right, let me pull Franco up. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Let me just set up this board real quick. We're going to get Franco up here. We're going to see what's going on, because I know we have a lot of questions. I sure do. These last 2-3 days have been well, I don't want to say what they've been because I might get kicked off the internet. Let's see. Let's see, hang on. Okay, I got you. We're good.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
What's happening, Franco?
Well, it's actually been quite boring lately, hasn't it? I mean, like just prior to the holidays, throughout the whole holidays and to this point in time, there's nothing going on. I'm going, what the heck's going on here?
Oh my God.
Does that resonate with you, or
No.
is it the total opposite?
No, I was doing pretty good, man. It's been, there has been a lot of major activations, a lot of huge expansions. The humans done pretty good with it. And then about 3 days ago, a bomb went off. And yesterday I was in bed and walking through the woods all day long by myself. I was asked, you want to go up to the mountain and hang out? I'm like, no, I want to be alone. And yeah, I did a little crying, man.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Some crazy for like 2 days. This I don't know if you'd call it light language. It was just stuff coming out of my mouth, you know, my voice, and it was, I don't know. On one hand, it was healing. It was excruciating. It was like had a message that I could only say came from the core of my soul, and I don't understand it all. So, was there anything significant that happened in the last 2 or 3 days?
Well, I mean, this is a combination of several things that are taking place at this time. I mean, let me just put it this way. I mean, first of all, people have to realize at this point that as of December 21st, the inverted matrix is completely turned off. Okay, so the egos, the artificial intelligence, and the system is becoming somewhat unstable, and it's panicking, right? So the ego mind is panicking and it's trying to grasp things. The thing to keep in mind also is that the ego mind likes to resort to connect with other ego minds, to kind of push each other's buttons and whatever else.
Yeah.
But when I say push the button, it's not, its intent is to keep itself alive. So if you're engaging with anybody and you're creating that clash, or not even a clash, but going into those deep states, then what occurs is that it's feeding itself from it. So the exchange comes into that part. Now, the beauty of all of this on the 21st, well, 21st and 22nd, depending on where you were on the planet. Of course, if you're in Australia, it was around the 22nd, and some of the Asian countries and so forth too. But in that regards, there was a calmness that occurred, because in a sense, it was like you weren't being bombarded to the same way. But within a few days, what I'm going to use as an analogy is like you're walking now and you're feeling good. And then this sandstorm comes along.
Yeah.
Okay. And people are going, what the heck happened? It's supposed to be lighter and whatever else. Yes, lighter in one way, but now the energies are flowing even more powerful. Two things have occurred in that. So we'll go back to the analogy, is the fact that we felt like we're walking through the desert and there's a strong blast of wind with sand in it, and it's just kind of blasting you and basically stripping you in one way or another as much as is ready to let go of yourself. And that has created somewhat intense emotions and a lot of other things that have come across. So we've been feeling that in a very powerful way. The other thing that occurred is that as of May, I think it was May of 2019, the first phase of 40% of the 2020 energy was already allowed to stream through. As of the 22nd, it went up to 60%. Okay. Wow. It's going to go to 100% on the 16th of January, which is coming up in about 10 days. However, yes. So, however, we're now feeling that, okay, I'd like to be ready for that. Now, there's a window opening up around the 9th and 10th of January, where if you are more ready, then you can activate these codes that are being downloaded within ourselves. So some people refer to, okay, we're stepping through, but the only way to step through it is basically to be kind of somewhat stripped of a lot of the older stuff that basically was all created in the 2D inverted 3D. So that's coming along, and that's only a few days away. Plus, we have a couple other.
Sounds like it's going to be full of ease and grace.
Well, it doesn't have to be challenging.
Well,
but, the resistance that we have within, because look at it, the panicking part is really our ego mind that panics. Your soul is pretty calm. Your human entity is quite excited about all of this. So it's like. It's like, okay, great. We get to upgrade. Great. We get to really experience more of our natural state, right?
Yeah. Needless to say, it's probably a good time not to make a lot of important decisions until the 16th or the 17th.
Well, around that point in time, yes, more of the 2020 energies will come through. So depending on what state that you're in, you're going to feel even much more uplifted, much more at home, or more disconnected. Because the thing is, the more we try to hold on to our world the way it is, the more it's going to feel uncomfortable, because we create this idea that the old world is stable because we know of it. We've lived it. We're
just familiar with it. There's a difference.
Yes. Familiar and, and all of that stuff.
But it makes sense. I mean, energetically, what you're saying makes all the sense in the world. So if you we're just talking in terms of charge, So if you have this 3D charge over here and you have this 5D charge over here, and what's been feeding it has been disproportionate, and now it's totally gone to the 5D, let's just say it's projecting 2020 energies, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And the other one's sitting there standing on its own, and all the other one is the ego.
Yes.
So that would send it to the extreme as it's being flushed out. And I guess that's, I was thinking about things that I hadn't thought about in 5 or 6 or 8 years, 10 years, 20 years. I'm pulling people up from 25 years ago and making peace and integrating and bawling my eyes out and chanting some ancient Akashic crazy rap. I don't even know what it was. Thank God I didn't go to the psych ward.
And people have to understand, you're going to feel some of that coming up, and emotions have been big. It's a big tool for people. When you get triggered in that way, and like you were saying, kind of the chanting, you're bringing in you're basically chanting using your own vibrational voice to kind of shatter a lot of the rigidity that was created and constructed, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's really for you, but it also affects the collective. And, you know, the beauty of going into nature, because nature supports you to be able to go through that so that you don't end up at the psych ward, like you said, right? So if you get to connect with that, it's like, so it's like Mother Nature, or what you want to call Gaia, you know, the sentient beings that are all connected to that are saying, it's okay. You're back, you know, we're supporting you. You're backed up, right? You're okay. And, you know, we're doing this together in a sense. Even Gaia is supporting us. So that's kind of what's been happening in that regard. So yeah, you may feel insane or something like that, and especially the last 3 days because of this next opportunity that's coming up, the window that's coming up a few days from now. Your higher self, your soul is saying, all right, I want to grab that activation, because that's basically, some people call it, you know, going through the channel and are you ready? But you know, sorry?
Some people say the needle, if you're going to
go,
go.
Oh, the eye of the needle or something of that nature. Well, if we understand the truth about how that worked, was that it was like, you can't, for you to go through, it was only designed for you to go through, and not the baggage that was overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
So it was, in a sense, okay, how do we move out of that? We got to drop this. So right now, a lot of the higher self saying, I want to grab as much as possible. So let me bring up anything. Like you said, that's why the thoughts of, you know, 10, 20, 30 years ago, stuff that we never thought are coming up, and making peace with it.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I feel like Wile E. Coyote jumping off a cliff. Yeah, I was going to ask you too. Oh, well, you brought something up, and that was that, you know, of course, the intense energy on what's left of that construct, which is just the ego. So it's going to push it to the extreme, because, you know, it's going down the sinkhole. And you said, so what does that look like to engage into that? I mean, it's nothing more, nothing less than drama. You feel in your body get tight. I mean, just stuff. It just doesn't make sense. Big time, or it's far time to, you know, not take it personal, because I think it's going to go away. Would that be a good description? I mean, is it going to go away pretty quick?
Well, the thing is, it will go away. It's all individual, so it depends on how much importance and how much you apply energy to it, and consciousness and focus. For example, if you're letting go much more easily, of course, you're being supported to let go very easily. It's doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be hard or anything of that nature. So in a sense, if we just let it go, and that may mean relationships, that may mean all types of things. But, you know, when I say letting go, it's not like pushing, because a lot of people get involved and say, well, I'm uncomfortable, I got to push this out. Well, it's not about pushing. It's about getting into the neutral state. Then it just changes and morphs and does whatever it needs to do. We have this understanding that we need to put boundaries, that we need to, you know, stand our ground or anything of that nature. Well, really, to understand it much more powerfully, you know, when I share things, I want to share it where it's very empowering, rather than, you know, still projecting any form of polarity. So it's a matter of, when we're looking at that, it's saying, okay, how does it resonate for me at this time to engage in this activity, to give power to this old modality or anything of this nature, or to engage with anybody in particular, right? So it's really about the self-empowering, and say, you know, this is not of interest. It's not like, oh no, I got to put up the wall. Don't come near me, you know, because you're bad. Don't even see anything, because everybody's a role player. So in fact, it's a gift in a sense, or what you want to call it, an orchestrated an alignment where you've asked each other to play a particular role. So see it for what it is, and then use it as a tool. Use it as an opportunity that you've presented yourself. Okay, great. I see this, and whatever.
I think be aware of how we might initiate the ego frequency, which is, oh, I don't want to do that, but they might get mad.
Right.
or, and so, I mean, and I think that's what's coming up for people. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's these little things that everyday life where you're going to make a choice for yourself, for your frequency, however you want to put it. You still want to do something. I'm not going to do it
Well,
without
the
feeling
thing,
bad about it and living with whatever comes from it. I guess
yes,
if somebody comes back, then your choice again is there to engage the ego frequency or not.
correct. The thing is, most people are not living their life.
Hmm.
They're living other collective ideas of life and other people's lives. For example, like you said, a good example. If you're saying, well, people are going to get upset, and I shouldn't change, or I shouldn't take this action, or I can't decide if I'm going to engage or not, guess what happens? Then you're basically now engaging in a sense where you're not living your life. For you to engage with somebody at their level, whatever that may be, you now have to abandon a part of you
Mm-hmm.
and even of your own choice of live stream. For example, this holiday season, I don't know how it's been with you, but the holiday season has been different than most other years.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, anybody that has been advancing and moving forward in a big way will find that getting engaged in this whole dynamics of the holiday season and all the requirements and expectations by family members and so
The
forth.
food.
Yeah,
You
food.
got
I
to
mean,
eat.
well, you got to eat, you got to entertain, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to buy presents, whatever. Many of you, and I know it, we felt it myself with Kimberly and everything else. It's like, wow, we're in an old movie. It felt very old. It felt like we stepped back into stagnation in a way, to the point of saying, do we still want to give power to this? Do we now shift and not hold on to a specific tradition? I'm not saying you can't, but you have to see how aligned you are with it. Does it now still provide us with, what we're ready to play with? This is the thing that shifts. So really, it's us to become more aware. Our eyes, our senses and so forth are becoming more alive to look at and say, okay, do I engage? Do I play? Do I want to support this?
Yeah.
And you're not going to see anything wrong with it. This is the thing. You can't see an experience or any family dynamics or anything as wrong, because nothing is wrong. And you can't even make a mistake. This is the other thing. You cannot make a mistake. You can repeat a pattern. You can get engaged in a pattern, but it's another opportunity for you to shift. And the thing is, if you make a choice point of saying, well, I knew better, but I went that way. But if you didn't make that other choice, it didn't enforce the fact that, oh, okay, I need to, move in that other direction.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Sarah asked in the Zoom room. Now, if you might want to restate what's going on the 9th and the 10th of January. She says, what's the best way to navigate and embrace the opportunity January 9th and 10th?
Well, basically to be present within yourself, and just notice at that point in time, it's a matter of where's your focus, what is really taking place. Because if you're engaged in any form of drama or rigidity in the sense of, oh my God, I got to go do this, I got to do that, and getting all engaged with that, then it's like you're putting a shield around yourself, and you're not allowing those energies to actually activate yourself. So realistically, right now, especially the last few days and leading into the 9th, we're going to feel much more, depending on what state that you're in. Some people will not feel it very much or anything at all. But the majority, if you agree to somehow go in the fast track, you're going to find emotion stuff coming up and whatever else, stories, programs, belief systems, and anything that you've had in the old.
Don't make any decisions.
And don't make any decisions.
I'm just messing.
But the decision-making part is really coming from a heart center. It's not about waiting. It's about, okay, am I going to respond to this artificial intelligence as a spewing out, or am I going to really connect with myself, right? And when you're connecting with yourself, you say, okay, how does this resonate? What do I engage with or not? Or where am I going with all of that? So in a sense, is that, do I make plans? But again, any plans that you make, okay, will have to be fluid, open.
Yeah.
You cannot lock it in. You can't say it has to be one way or another. You have to allow it to take its natural course. This is the thing, because we're changing so quickly. Now, let me bring out a point. You can make a decision prior to that time. Okay. Now, it may fully resonate at that point, and you may put a lot of attention on that, and that's great. Well, you know, that window goes through, you get activated, things change within yourself, and then all of a sudden that idea, the thought, so fantastic, the plans you made, it's like, well, I don't even have to go there anymore. It's like,
Right.
don't need it, right?
Yeah.
So to be okay with that, rather than getting into the idea, oh my God, did I get bad information, you know, or whatever, or did something change? Did I miss out or anything like that? That's kind of a just something to bind us up that doesn't, you know, that doesn't support us. So it's a fact of just saying, okay, great, it shifted. Why did it shift? Because we shifted. Why did it shift? Because the energy shifted. Because my timeline actually modified.
And you said something about if I would think based on these comments, as for example, my friend VP Jewel. So walking around and hiking is a good idea. That's about all I can do. But what I'm saying is, most of these, I would think, probably everybody here is on a fast track. And what I'm getting, one of the things I'm getting from you is it may happen. There may be an egoic frequency in your field. It may even be coming from you. But the thing is, it's bringing something to you in the form of code or an elevation, basically. Do we have to figure out what it is, or can we just take that energy in without words?
No, just be open to the energies, and you can remind yourself saying, okay, I'm allowing the codes that the best supports me in the state that I am, and I'm allowing the energies to flow through me because I'm open. The thing is, a lot of times we say we're open and we go into resist mode, and we go into the point of, oh, I'm open for this much, but you're giving me this much. But it's allowing it to come through. And no matter how it feels for you, just allowing it to flow.
Yeah.
And if it brings up anything in that point, it's really, you're going to notice the stuff that it brings up is the stuff that needs to purge anyways.
Yeah. Oh my God. I purged 2 days ago. Oh my God. Physically, mentally. And it was like that. Well, it was like that, but the after effects, you know, that tenderness and soreness and, you know, frailty, that lasted for a while. So.
Well, it's you know, the thing is an appreciation. You know, I'm not talking about regular compassion that everybody's adopted the idea, because there's two types of compassion. There's the compassion of feeling bad for anyone or yourself. And there's a compassion of understanding the beauty of the design and saying, wow, great, amazing, what I've done and what I'm doing, or what somebody else is going through. You know, you're never feeling bad about yourself or anybody else because it's all perfect, right?
Yeah.
So really looking at it and think, okay, great, look at what I've provided myself and so forth. See, the energies are there. It's up to us, because the energies, what are they? They're created from a collective perspective, but I'm not talking about just a collective of only our planet Earth. We're talking a collective from not only our solar system, our galaxy, and our universe, right? So it's that level of collective, because in the human experience, locked into the human experience, we have a certain level of frequency. But when we're tapping into what we call higher consciousness aspects of ourselves that are in physical forms or non-physical forms that actually are, you know, working through us, then the energies go higher and the codes are even much more open. Let's call it that. So that's the thing. It's like we're in full agreement to have all of this take place. It's not like it's being shoved down our throat and say, oh, take it or not, right? But it is presented to say, it's your choice if you take it now or not. Like even this window for us to be able to activate that, you will have another window again. It's not like it's get it now or you're done.
Yeah.
Some people may believe that, but it's not, because there is, look at it this way, Todd. When you are working even with a group of people, and say in the group of people, you got 20 people, but there's only 5 people ready. The other 15 are not ready, okay? So are you going to say, okay, I'm not going to share anything because those 5s are ready, but the 15 are not ready. I'm going to go with the fact of the numbers. You know, the ratio is higher. There's 75% are not ready.
Mm.
But the thing is, it doesn't look at that and it says, okay, 5 are ready. So let's have the 5 activated. So those 5 will start to live a certain way and will be a great example and will also influence the other 15.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the thing. And it's not like enter or don't enter, be this or not. It's a matter of how much of it, how many are on board, because all of us are an example. For example, look at how many of us, have, shifted our realities, have gone into a higher consciousness, that are doing this work that we're doing. There's quite a few, but the majority is not. And the sense is, it's like, oh, okay, well, let's wait for everybody before we share, before we do. No, we share with all the ones that are ready for it. And then everyone's getting lit up. Everyone is being activated so that it just creates a beautiful, you have to see it. It's like a web of energy and consciousness and experiences that go outside of what, we've been experiencing for the last 10,000 years. So that becomes very instrumental and very powerful. And that's the beauty of it. So, the opportunity is there. It's like even the ones that have gone into organic 3D versus organic 5D. We can't give it any power saying organic 5D is better than organic 3D. No, it isn't. They're equal in many senses, but they're different experiences using different levels of consciousness and different levels of experiencing ourselves in physical form. There's nothing better or worse of either one. And it's all there to serve. So in essence, it's not like, oh, we're just activating the 5Ds. We're activating all of them, 3 and 5, organic, right? And even if they're not in organic, they're in the inverted or the 2D, it's still stimulating, right? So in essence, it just creates that environment for us to facilitate. Of course, after that, we have 2 beautiful bursts around the 11th, 12, and then 14, which actually, the ones that have actually gone through that phase gets even stimulated, but the ones that have not get shaken up a bit. And I think we have a lunar eclipse or something going on also around the 11, 12 type time. But it's all of that. And you have to understand, if you pay attention to it, anybody that's listening, including yourself, that the lunar eclipses and other eclipses and other changes that are going on and alignments of planets too, which planet is dominating what, it feels different. It's not going to be the same. You're not going to see it the same. And also the influence of the moon itself on how it moves and the cycles and so forth are not as impactful, because the only impact you will feel is looking at it and saying, oh, I should feel bad. And then you activate it within yourself rather than being unconscious and still feeling it where it used to be before.
Yeah.
So that's changed too. And then when we're going into those sequences, then on the 16th, we're actually going into 16, 17, we're going into the fuller spectrum of 5th dimensional, 2020 energies. And then there's that window for 3 years, basically 2020, 2021, and 2022 is heavily concentrated. And there's more stuff, by the way.
Now, is the 2020 energy, does it hit 100% on the 16th, 17th?
Yes.
Oh, it does. And right now we're at what? 60%. We're at 60.
So it hits 100% then. Okay. Then we have a window between the 6th or 17th, basically, of January until the end of May, which is much more preparation. So those energies of the 2020 and beyond, because it's not just the energy of 2020, it's 2020 and the decade type of thing. Actually does a more refining between the 17th until the end of May. So by the time of the beginning of June, we've had a lot more stabilization within those energies. So we will still go through whatever we go through, but then you're going to notice that projects and whatever that is coming from a heart level, from a collective oneness state, will be much more supported. Okay. You're going to have even less resistance than we already have now, because the resistance is dropping, but it's still pretty active.
Yeah.
So, you'll see that things will flourish even more. Now, it all depends again where you're at or anything of that nature. Those are the few things. I won't share the rest because those have to be refined. But
overall, just to recap what's just occurred and a little bit of what's happening. The projection of the inverted 3D is gone.
Yes.
It's been gone since the 16th. And then we came in with the
21st. It's been gone on the 21st of
21st.
21st, 22nd of December.
Okay. So then we got a shot of 40% of the 2020 energy. Then it went to, now we're at 60. We're going to hit 100 on the 16th or 17th. We're getting two turbocharges around the 11th or 12th and then the 14th. And right. The way what that looks like at the human level is what we started the show about. I mean, is it going to continue just to bring more and more of this stuff?
Well, it depends. If it's required for you to free yourself even more, yes, you may feel it much more intensely, but there's a gentleness to it in a way because you're still being supported, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times we misunderstand what support looks like in the sense of saying, okay, support should look like this. I should be caressed and, nudged. A lot of times, realistically, if we got our hooks and we're like anchored to something and we're not letting go with the nudges and the little waves, then it needs to shake you up in a sense and it has to rip it all apart. So in a way, but that's only because of the fact that we are holding on to our rigidity of whatever.
Sometimes support is leaving them alone. Just leave them alone. They'll figure it out.
Yeah. The other thing you're going to find is people are going to feel, how can I put it? They're going to be less invested in going in and trying to change people. Okay.
Yeah.
As these new two waves come in, there's going to be a different appreciation that we'll activate within ourselves because it's already there. Some of us already have it activated. Others are going to have those parts activated. And it's really an understanding and appreciation rather than say somebody falls in a hole, I'm just using that as an analogy. Mm-hmm. Instead of us diving in there and trying to lift them up, you're basically going to say, do you want a hand to pull out or not? It's okay. You're not going to feel bad that they're there. And you say, okay, listen, you there, you can get out anytime you want. And if you need a hand at some point, just call.
Give us
when you're ready, right? So the whole thing about, I got to change my kids. I got to change my partner. I got to change my, my family. I got to change all of that. That's going to be very uncomfortable in the sense it's like, yeah, that doesn't feel right. Because what happens is it will drain your energy. This is the thing. Many of us already feel it. When you're trying to save people, and this is an inverted 3D and 2D mentality because you're not here to save anybody, and that doesn't even exist. It's just an illusionary part. But if you're trying to save people with the idea, I got to pull them out, you're going to notice your energy level will drop very quickly.
Yeah. It hurts your soul.
Absolutely. Because you're draining the power. Because what happens? Your soul says, okay, I'm going to cut off your resources until you can't move or you can't stay, focus on doing that because you need to focus on your movement and sharing. But at the same time, when you're sharing, you're not going in, oh, they're disadvantaged and I have to help them. It's like, no, we have to understand that everybody is just as powerful as we are, but we are all at different states of consciousness, different states of our journey and different states of creation. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's the difference.
And there's more immediate effects from the causes that we create, too.
Well, yes, things are faster for sure. The amount of processing of new consciousness and higher awareness is speeding up. Okay. Yeah. And so we are, and in a way that's great because we are receiving more and more of within our operating system, more and more information. Sometimes people call it code, some people call it data, call it a lot of different names, but we're allowing more of that to come in. So at times it's going to feel insane because of the fact that it's saying, oh, wait, don't give me so much. Don't give me so much. I got to process. Well, the point is, this is the best part, Todd. It doesn't want you to process it. It wants you to allow it to flow and push out. The other stuff just gets purged out, which is old data. Because when we're processing, what happens? We take old data and we're now trying to compare it, and we're going to see, okay, how do I make it all work? Well, that's
what I
not
mean.
the point.
That's why I was asking earlier. Do we have to figure it out? We don't.
No.
I don't think we have to figure it out.
No.
I spent 2 days. You know, I functioned. I did everything, but I mean, there was some solitude. But my point is I knew I was purging. It started in the evening. I had massive dream state, and I was looking at that, and then I got up, and the rest of the day was physical, mental, emotional purging. It was just, that's all it was. I didn't have to judge it. I didn't want to leave it there, you know. I mean, I left it there. I didn't bring it with me, but that's all I could do with it.
Yeah, you don't have to figure out where it's from, why it's coming, what does it mean, or anything of that nature. You're basically, like you said, you're allowing it to purge because it is being purged, and that's what all these new levels of consciousness are coming in, and in such a rapid rate. The other thing is too, what used to take, years, we're doing in days, sometimes in weeks, sometimes in months, but then we can do it in hours, minutes, and seconds sometimes, depending how much we are open to it. So what we processed, this is why the processing is too slow. So you don't process it, you let it flow, because it is already doing whatever it's doing, because you're allowing it to do whatever it's doing.
Yeah. If you're feeling any resistance, there's something in there that's still not letting go.
Yes.
But we've spent a few weeks here now with a beautiful brother and sister, good friends of ours, and there's been a lot of elevation. There's been a lot of stuff coming through very rapidly for everyone on a singular level, on a group level, on a couple level. Some people that are in the fringe, affected. I mean, it's been amazing. And then I know it was probably about 5 days ago, people were talking about this energy, and I felt it. And I don't normally feel it. I mean, I felt sick. I mean, we got sick. I mean, it was obvious that there was an acceleration. So I'm happy to know that it's going to be 100% on the 16th, which I guess at the end of the day means that energy is there 100% available in all its capacities if we seek it.
Exactly. And you said it perfectly, available, so it's streaming. The environment is supported by it, but it's up to us how much we take in and if we're ready for it, right? So,
And the more people that, like you said earlier, about the 5 and the 15, the more people that do it, they're actually becoming part of that complex of energy that's already broadcasting, so part of the good news is the ego is going to go away, because it's not going to be anything to support it.
Exactly. And that's why I said right in the beginning is that, okay, maybe I didn't specify it as well, but I will share now, is to be really pay attention that if you're drawn into, like from a mind perspective, to engage with certain people, and then you're noticing that you're feeding each other by, the egos are trying to, because it doesn't have the support, now it's trying to support each other, right? And you're going to see people wanting to draw to each other, and then they all start to, bring up all the old stuff and whatever else. And it's by you paying attention and say, oh, okay, I'm refueling or reinforcing my ego. Okay, well, yeah, that was pretty cool. See you later. Time out. Exactly.
Time out. That's it. I'm going to get a flag and just put a timeout.
Perfect. And it's good to have a reminder, because in essence, when things start coming up, and you start to getting engaged, and even being light about it, and having a, like laugh at it, be
absolutely. And I think, you're seeing evidence of this too out there. I'm making a joke. I mean, I wouldn't be that demonstrative with people, but I think to myself is what I'm saying, time out.
Yeah.
But people, they're, I think, becoming more aware of it, not to take things personal. There is still, obviously, egos being challenged, people projecting, and all that stuff. But but you know, people seem to be more conscious of it. I think there's a lot of people on this fast track.
Yes, yes, more than ever. And there's more and more coming on board really quickly. So it's very, very supportive and very comforting to see
So,
these groups coming together. Like when I say groups, I'm talking about from all over the world. More and more people are connecting to that energy, even if they're not even in their own presence, they're connecting to that energy, and it creates such a powerful what do you call it, exchange that occurs. So you're really creating a powerful web, energetic web, and you're kind of, everybody's kind of being affected to some degree, but it's up to them what they choose to play within themselves.
and as you say that, there's 111 people in the house. So that's pretty cool. What were you just talking about? I had something for you. God, I can't remember now. It'll come back in a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Can't remember what it was. That's
But one of the tools you can use while you're remembering, one of the tools you can use is that whenever stuff is coming up for you, or, you know, some thought forms come in where it's saying, oh, you should be doing this and that, you know, in a very light way, say, really, can you explain why? Like, can you give me details? And just keep digging at the details, because what happens, it causes a decomputing from the ego mind.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is smoke and mirrors, in a sense, if you want to call it that as an analogy, because it just makes up stuff. I know it's borrowing stuff from whatever it's seen and experienced and its own experiences, but I'm not talking about the ego, because the ego itself is an operating system. It needs resources, especially now. Okay. So what is it going to do? It's going to actually tap into your subconscious mind and look at some of your stories, and then create a story from that and say, oh, okay, look at this, look at that, whatever.
That's crazy. The other night I laid down to go to bed, and I swear I heard this voice, and it said da 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 da, you know, like an old story or something. And I heard my voice go, no. Like, I know that loop, don't go there. But I did, you know, I did it in dream state. You know, I did it sleep talking and in lucid dreams, and then I got up the next morning and purged. But I knew that's all it was. I mean, for me, it was a big, I don't know if it's a lesson, but I think I got to a point where I said, you know what? I don't have to know any of this stuff. I don't have to bring any of this with me. I don't have to take it personal on myself or anyone else. I just purged, and I'm happy for that.
Yeah, and it's a matter, you know, what it is it's, you know, a lot of times we call it lessons too, like you were saying. Is it really a lesson, or is it a realization? You're basically accessing and knowing within that realization and saying, oh, okay, I realize what's going on here. Okay, great. Let me redirect now. Now I'm much more aware of where things are going, and let me adjust accordingly. And that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, that makes, now I know what it was I was going to ask you. So you sent me a message and you said, I'm seeing, and I mean, I don't know how much of this was written, but I was connected to you. What I'm seeing is, you know, it's fantastic. The element of playing and learning and all that stuff. I mean, can you just kind of generalize, what are you seeing there? It doesn't necessarily have to be like, you know, an explicit description verbally, but I mean, I just kind of got the impression, maybe I was looking through your eyes, I don't know, but it looked pretty extraordinary.
Okay. Well, I mean, the message I had sent you was you know, besides the fact that things didn't feel the same, even the holidays, it didn't even seem real or anything more. It's just like, okay, this is getting old, and it didn't have the same energy as other years. Okay. Even though, you know, things have weakened in that regard. So that was that part of it. But what we're entering is the most powerful transformative year and decade that ever has been experienced at this point in time. So it's just us stepping into that in a hugely powerful way. And you know, the thing is, let's talk about timelines for a second. You know, everybody's talking about collapsing timelines and whatever else, right? Okay. On a personal level, okay, really, we've already collapsed all our timelines. Okay. What we're doing is now what looks like, you know, jumping from one timeline or another, but really what we're doing is just plugging in certain things that may come from an older timeline or anything of that nature for us to kind of wrap it up. But our timeline, we all have individual timelines, and then we have the collective timelines.
Mhm.
But then, you know, it depends on what state you are in a sense. So basically, how much do we plug into the timeline or not? Or are we the one that's motivating the timeline upgrade? And the
Right.
fact that, and when I say upgrade, it's not like, oh, we're going to collapse this timeline and bring another timeline. It's basically making changes on the same timeline. For example, simple analogy. You can drive your car and then you say, you know, I'm done with the car. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the car. I'm going to take another car that goes a little faster, or it handles differently, or whatever it is. You're driving through some other terrain and say, okay, the roads are rougher. So now I need one of those, what do you call it? Jeeps and whatever, right?
I gotcha.
So I need one of those. But it's not like that anymore. This is how I relate it now, just as an analogy for people to understand. You're driving your car and you say, you know, I really feel like revving it up. So it's like you pushing a button, same car,
Yeah.
horsepower goes up. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you're going through rough terrains, pushing other buttons, the car raises, tires beef up, and you're able to go. You don't even have to leave the car now. You adopt accordingly, because now the vehicle is upgrading itself as you go along because of what is required. And that's how it works with the timeline. We plug in anything and everything that we choose. And the beautiful part of it is, back to the car analogy, if we're already in the Jeep now, because we've converted it to what looks like a Jeep because it's raised, the tires got bigger, whatever it is, once you're done with that road, you're not going to stuck in the Jeep. You go back to the sports car, for example, because now the roads are smooth, right? And this is the thing, the timeline is there. Okay, I need this in my timeline. I'm going to plug it in, experience it, get what I need to get, and then I don't need to carry it anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like before where, you know, you were on this timeline and then this timeline had Jeeps. This timeline only had regular cars, and then another one was sports cars. So you're going to go one after the other. Now it's just switch, upgrade, degrade, whatever it is, you do it. And this is the planetary timelines like that, and our personal timeline. The beautiful part is, because we're on separate timelines, we can see each other, but we can interact at any point in time, share the timeline, and then unplug from the timeline. So that means, for example, you meet up with some people. Now you create a merging of those two timelines so that you can actually experience each other more fully. Like you said, you get your friends together or some people that you haven't seen, and there's amazing things going on because you've now lined up the timelines. But that doesn't mean the timelines stay fixed. Now they go back to, they now maintain theirs, you go and maintain yours. Maybe that interaction may have notched you even further. So you've plugged in a few extra things to your own timeline, but you're still running separately with the possibility to connect at any point in time. This is amazing how it's been all reorchestrated and designed now. It's not like the old version of way of doing things.
Yeah, it's like you take with you what you've gained essentially, and leave behind what you no longer, you know, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's more mirrors. It's more, you're seeing more. You know, Morgan was talking about the other day how we're looking out of like bee's eyes, you know, with 100 different lenses, you know, because you're seeing a lot more. Yeah.
Yes. And the thing is too, the beauty of that is whatever you've learned, whatever you've adopted, let's put it this way, whatever that interaction that you've gained, you take it on, like you said, you use it, but at some point, there's no need to hold on to it. So you let it go. You unplug it off your timeline because you've already achieved what you needed to achieve, because you want to keep it open. This is the thing, is you don't want to carry any of the old stuff. Like before, we were collectors. We collected experiences. We collected, you know, the experience is not an issue here. This is the one thing I want to make very clear to people. The experience is not an issue. And really nothing is an issue, but what bogs us down is the attachments to an experience, the labels to the experience, the definitions to an experience. Because look, sometimes people say, oh, I went through trauma. You know, I had all this traumatic experience. Well, is it really a traumatic experience, or is it just an experience that we've labeled as traumatic?
Yeah.
You know?
And if you go back to what we were talking about earlier with the purging and what I went through for those couple of days, you know, if you took all the labels and the definitions and everything out of it, like you're talking about, and just saw it as energy and what you were talking about, just allow it to come in, right? Don't try to clear or process anything. Don't try to understand it. Just let it come in and go, and or align or feel or whatever it is. It's the same thing.
Yes. Now, you brought a good point there. Again, it's another tool I'll share. And basically, you know, the thing is, if you have a reflection of an old experience, right? When it comes in for you, for example, and you are now judging it, saying, "Oh, that was a horrible thing," okay, you don't want to apply another label on a label and on another definition. So, in essence, what you're doing is you're looking at it and you're removing those particular labels. The experience is just the experience, but the experience, again, is not to be carried along and refer to that experience and say, well, I used to be this, or I used to have that, even without the
This
labels.
happened to me. So when you don't resist it and you allow it, it actually brings with it code as you give it up. You know, it actually elevates you.
Yes, it opens you up. It actually raises your frequency of how the interaction and communication comes in from different aspects of yourself. So yes, you're encoding, reactivating, you know, even updating all of that stuff, just because you're not resisting it, you're not judging it. We're not giving so much power of this, because one of the things we have to understand, and I've said this for years now, is that we can't see anything as right, wrong, good, or bad, because everything is just that, an experience. The only reason we experience it as right, wrong, good, or bad is because we've labeled it that way. But those labels are not even from a natural state. Those labels are the inverted 3D, 2D of the inverted matrix, where it labels things. Because when we go and connect with ourselves, you can, let me give you an example. And I'm sure you've done it yourself. When you see something very intensely that may have happened, that is so emotionally charged, so dramatic, or, you know, whatever you may feel, when you connect with yourself and you go to that higher consciousness level, when you look at that, it's like looking at a game, a toy. It's like, wow. And you pick it up and look at it from all the angles and say, wow, this is pretty amazing, you know? It's only when the ego mind gets engaged and goes, what are you talking about? This is horrible. This was not fair. This is not right. This is not this, right? Yeah. But without that, it just looks at it and go, wow, look at that.
Well, I think that's one reason that a lot of the people that come on the show, when they talk about their wake up experience, I mean, a lot of people got to a point where you said, what else can you do? What else can happen to me? You know, and you hit that point of, you know, you become impervious to it.
Yes, because you don't give it power. You don't define it. You don't engage with what the perceived collective energy around it is. Because realistically, if we're not supported to believe, look, I've seen people. I've been doing sessions with people for over 35 years, okay? And I've seen all types. There are people that have had experiences. Like I would have people come in for a session. Let me give you a simple example. Somebody comes in and they may have had what you can call taken advantage, or had been taken advantage from say a loved one of some sort. What do they call it? You know, where you're physically, there's a name for it. I can't think of it right now. But they never gave it any power. But some way they started to explain it to somebody at some point, or they watched it on something else and they say, oh, you've been sexually abused. Oh my God, you know, and all of that. And all of a sudden the labels start to apply. And what was, oh, that's what it was? Do I need to feel bad? Oh yes, okay. Then you start to feel bad. And I've seen this. And then we go back and reverse it and say, okay, how did it feel at that time? Well, I don't know. It felt what it felt like it felt. I mean, it was just an experience, right? But it was later on that the labels got applied. So until those labels got applied and the definition right, wrong, good, or bad got in, it really not meant anything to them, not before that, right?
True. Yeah, that's true. But all that's going away. And I want to talk a little bit about what what you got coming up? You got anything coming up? I know you did
Yes.
one in November, I believe, and one in December. And you skipped January, or you're having it around the 20th, something like that.
Yes, the 18th of January is the next one coming up. So it's in 12 days. So in 12 days, we have another workshop coming up. And this particular workshop is part 3 of the trilogy. Okay, so how it works. The first one we did, which was October the 5th, that one was creating the basis of understanding the inverted, what's been changing regarding the inverted matrix, understanding the 2D, 3D, all of that stuff. And also the changes that came about were going into organic 3D and so forth. So really the mechanics, how it worked, what's happening, when it happened, what it looks like, and so forth. The next phase that came in, which we did on November 23rd, that was your role in all of this. How do you participate? How do you change it? How to do it, so forth. The third one, which is coming up in 12 days, it's a Saturday for most people. That one there is now more hands-on. Not only are we going to expand a little bit more details about it, but we're going to do processes where we are actually engaged in aligning ourselves more than ever with organic 3D and 5D, because the request has been, how can we better manage through this? How can we better utilize these opportunities? Because it is an opportunity, okay? So how can we utilize it? So that's what the focus on this particular one that's coming up is about. So if you haven't seen the first 2, grab them as quickly as possible, because the replays are available and they're in video and audio recordings. And then do the third one, because now you've got the basis, you've got your role in it all, and now you have tools that we do together live, because it's live streamed. And then of course the people that can't be live streamed, how can I say, will be able to access the audio and video recordings. Now, what I recommend to anybody and everyone is that these processes is not something you just watch once. And that's why we make available the audios and videos for them. And so if they go in the live stream, they get that automatically. And if you can't be on live stream, of course, less money, but you end up getting the record. It's to be repeated, because what happens each time you repeat is not only an energetically charged information charge, it creates more memory, reactivating your own knowing, the memory.
Yeah.
It's food for the soul, okay? And it is an instrument to modify your own overall consciousness and rewiring how your thought processes and how you see things. So in fact, when you're looking at things, it starts to challenge the default response. This is what a lot of people do. So it starts to break the default response, or at least create disruption in it. And the more you immerse yourself in it and so forth. I've had people contact me and say, well, oh man, you know, my lifesaver is going in through those processes, those meditations and whatever, because whenever I'm having, you know, so-called meltdown or what I call flammable experience, I go there and it brings that form of peace. And then I could look at it and it feels very different.
Yeah.
So these are tools for people to utilize at these beautiful, colorful experiences at times right now. The reason I do it is to provide it, because the thing is, all I'm doing is really sharing what you know, but you have not accessed so much, or, you know, you're starting to, but just to stimulate it. And the thing is, the beautiful part of it is supportive, you know, knowing that we are supporting each other. It's like, oh yeah, great. And that's why when you do the shows, Todd, with all the other people, each one has something that it brings in to kind of give people, the people that listen to all the Soulology parts of it, to really, okay, great. Now I'm understanding. I feel that I'm not alone. Okay, now I'm able to feel more grounded within myself, because that's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it serves. So that's coming up on the 18th of January, which is 12 days from now.
Right on. And so Kimberly put up 2 links. She put up one for that and one for the previous, 1 and 2, October 5th and the other one. If you want to go back to pick up the audio, you can pick up the audio or the video. Is that
They're
right?
both. They're together.
Oh, they're together. Okay.
Yeah. So when you get that, you get both. The reason is that a lot of times people, it's best to watch it, video, but to refresh it when you're doing your day-to-day, whatever you're doing, working, whatever it is, then you can listen to the audio because you've already got the picture of what you saw, because I do write on boards and kind of more illustrate what's really taking place. So you end up using both. And then a lot of the meditations are great to use just the audio. I mean, you do the video the first time, but the audios are also very, very powerful. And I break them up so that they're in sections. So if you have to go back to a specific section because that's been the most challenging for you, okay, great, let me use this.
Right
it's
on.
a library in a sense of.
That works. That's perfect. And I know it's very reasonable because I went and looked at it. You know, we've got somebody asked a question, and we do have a little bit of time, so I'm going to go ahead and it's in regard to walk-ins.
Right.
And well, I know we've talked about walk-ins in previous shows, but now a lot of things have changed. So I'm going to kind of just play off of her question and make a question. She talks about what will happen to those who do not embrace the energies / growth if they want to stay the same, etc. I think I'd add to it, how has the walk-in game changed? And you might want to just kind of restate what a walk-in is for people that never talked about it.
Okay, so what a walk-in is basically a soul says, okay, I'm done with this particular experience, or feels that there's a certain level of restrictions, and may say, okay, I'm choosing no longer to harness or to utilize this physical representation. So it can unplug, but it makes it available because the body's still very functional, and it's not necessary for them to be unplugged. The reason somebody gets unplugged, what we call checkout or whatever you want to call die, or, you know, these are labels that people give, and I'm using it so people understand, is because not only is the soul completed, but it's also beneficial for them to unplug themselves physically. Because, you know, a soul does, first of all, a soul does not put so much attention how it leaves. Like if it commits suicide, if it gets ill, if it gets killed in what we believe is an accident or anything of that nature. If it needs to exit, it exits, but it will check with other souls and saying, okay, what is my best strategy to leave that will be impactful for all the brother, sister souls that are in my family dynamics or friendship dynamics or working dynamics that would be the most impactful as an opportunity, right? So, for example, I've had people that called me and said, you know, my kid, my child, my son, or somebody, or even the husband or whatever, or partner of some sort, I shouldn't say husband, but a partner committed suicide, right? And, you know, and that could be quite shocking for people because a lot of times they don't even imagine that they would even be able to do that. And what were they thinking? Well, the soul was done. It wanted to gift on its exit, wanted to gift all the souls involved. Because I've asked many times when they call, and I said, okay, if this partner or this person would have just got sick or had a car accident, would it be as impactful as a suicide?
Right.
No, right?
It's multiple meanings, multiple purposes to everything, right?
Exactly. So if a soul leaves and the physicality is in great shape, when I say great shape, it's still usable and it doesn't have a requirement for it to be unplugged, then another soul, and there's like, I don't know, several 20+ billion souls that are really biting, you know, really wanting to come down here anyways. And at some points they will have the opportunity. So there's one that says, oh, okay, good. Let me go try that. Now, so the soul will plug into the physicality and then work with the human entity, with the body and the overall consciousness of what we call the mind, or the mind, and then create a new alignment. So a lot of times their characteristics may change somewhat because that soul that comes in carries a higher energy or a different purpose or slightly different purpose. So all of a sudden their characteristics starts to change, and all of a sudden it's like, who is this person, right?
So
now,
if a soul walks in, is it somehow connected to the soul that, I know we're all connected, but like in a monadic way or in some type of personal
sometimes
universe?
yes, that's usually the first option. but a lot of times that's not the case. Sometimes it could be your soul family, a soul family member that may want to step in and say, oh, okay, great. You're giving up the seat. You're moving out of your seat. I want to step into it. The reason I say that is because the soul family is much more experienced in because of the strong connection and the closeness of the signature of the souls, that it actually has kept an eye on, and I use that loosely, an eye on your experience and says, oh, okay, great. I have a good background or a base to understand. So for them, it's a little bit more natural to come in as an option. But there are other times that doesn't happen. Then something totally different comes in, a soul from another soul family. I know you, like you said, they were all connected, but another one could step in. Sometimes these souls that come in have never been in the human form and have had many lives in alien physicalities on different planets, and they will come in and be able to really shake things up, because in essence, they're not, the energy is not something that has a relationship to the human experience. However, when a soul like that comes in, then it relies heavily on the human entity, the body's consciousness, overall consciousness, and the mind's overall consciousness to bring it up to speed in a way, saying, okay, how do we operate this body? Well, okay, you got the
That's what
program.
happened to me. I think I must have been walking like at 1 year old, because I've been, well, now the other part's coming in though.
Yes.
And so then to end on that one, somebody else asked, will and I don't know what term you use for twins. I think you used the word twins. Will a twin that's disincarnated come back in these times as a walking?
Only if it's going to be highly beneficial. Yes. So what we call the twin soul, or sometimes people call it twin flames. So that we understand what a twin soul is, basically all of our souls have a twin. Basically, the soul has the exact same signature, operates within the same frequency, but goes out and has different experiences. There's a more direct, it's like a direct line. And there's a lot of people think, okay, we don't have connection to our twin soul, but a lot of times when we're communicating even with ourself, our own soul, it's not just our soul. We're communicating with our twin soul, and it's sharing itself from a perspective maybe being non-form or non-carnated, whatever you want to call it, and it has a more of a broader view because it's not in the trenches. It doesn't have the boots in the ground sort of thing like you use as a terminology at times. So it's like, I give the example of this nature. If it's in non-form, okay, it's like going to a football game. The players are on the ground. So everybody that's down here are the players on the ground. Then all the audience are other aspects of ourselves that are not playing that game, but can see the game from an overview, like it sees the whole overview of the same thing. So you're communicating with the one that's observing, that could see all the player movement and who's preparing for what. So it can actually say, okay, this is what's coming in, this is what they're planning to do, and whatever. So you can share that. So that's the first level of that. Another level of that is when if a twin soul is in form somewhere else, it can share the consciousness and the experience. It could be on the same planet, but in a different country or a different part of the world, for example, and can share from that. Or it can be on another planet altogether, and it will stream. Sometimes we're saying, okay, we're getting this information and it's from a Palladian or Syrian or Turian or whatever, right? But that could be, a lot of times it is your twin soul that may be embodied in one of those physicalities, and there's a communication and an exchange of their viewpoint versus your viewpoint. And the interest is that both parties have something to offer. It's not like, oh, okay, I'm less than or whatever it is. However, so there's going to be times that, your twin may decide to come in and incarnate, or that you may actually even meet them, especially if they're on the planet. Yeah. Another time it could be one from your soul family. Another one could be one from a different soul family that may come along, or it can be even a soul mate that you've had other lives with and been waiting for things to be a certain level before they would come in. And then there's a recognition Sometimes the recognition, people confuse it as, oh, that's my twin soul. No, it could be that you've had several other lives, may not have been on this planet, could have been on other planets, but it's just that. The one thing I wanted to point out with the drop-in thing, it has become much more common in a sense of a lot of that exchanging going on. But we also understand that there are many, many souls that do leave for a period of time, and drop-ins come in for a temporary piece of time. It's not like, okay, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. The other thing that there's soul swapping. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but soul swapping, meaning that, you know, your soul may decide to go, okay, I need to have different experiences because I feel somewhat limited in this point. So it will embody another physicality that's becoming available. And that one may come into your body or another one from another body, but they're all temporarily just to kind of have a different experience to kind of elevate. So for example, let me give you an example. You maybe have lived in the United States for a very long time and may have not traveled much at all. Not that's the case, but I'm saying all of a sudden you go to Europe, okay, or Asia or someplace like that, where, you know, the culture is different, the experience is different, the food's different, everything is different. So you just go yourself there to expose yourself to that, to kind of open your mind out of what you've said, this is my limited part. Now I got, oh, another viewpoint. I have another way of experiencing it. So that's why the soul swapping, because that wasn't very common until last decade. It's become much more elevated. And of course but the movement is very quickly. This is the thing. And I've noticed stepping in and stepping out. Now, other things is that certain souls will come in. I know I don't want to go too far with this, but just since we got me all pumped up.
No, that's good.
There are other physicalities that will go through 2 or 3, 4 different souls over a period of time. What happens is a particular soul wants to come in that may have a very powerful purpose to facilitate, but the timing is not, and when I say timing, it's the state of consciousness of, say, planet Earth, for example, right? It's not ready. The physicality is not ready. The human entity is not ready. So basically, it makes arrangements to say, okay, I will step in once the frequency of the collective gets to this point. But meanwhile, I want the body to have experiences. I want the body to open up. I want the human entity to expand. I want to have the consciousness and so forth, and its positioning to take a certain form. So what happens is you can have a soul step in for maybe 10, 15, 20 years, whatever time. And then that soul will leave. Another one will come in and carry it through for a period of time to elevate it to the next level. And then it might be the third one that particular soul says, okay, perfect timing now. The energies of the collective is at this point. The energies that are supporting and streaming from everywhere is most conducive, and I'm ready to take on the role. Okay, so it would do that. And it would step in at that point in time. So now you're already on the third soul. It could be 22 souls. It can be 4, 5, you know. So
but it's still occurring with these changes that have occurred, these thresholds that we've met, it's still occurring.
Yes.
In fact, it sounds like it's becoming more common.
It is. It's moving a lot quicker. And this is the other thing too. You know, some people bring up the discussion around, oh, what happens to all these people that are asleep? You know, all these people that are, you know, the extras, for example, right? Well, if it doesn't serve, then those, and it can't be upgraded that easily, then yeah, they will just start disappearing from your reality over a period of time. However, many of these physicalities are very, very good to be utilized by other souls. So even though it may not have a personalized soul, and a personalized or individual, let's call it that, individualized soul and individualized human entity, when it gets to a certain climaxic space or time, energetically and the state of consciousness overall, then it may turn around and say, okay, now I can jump in because it's now more closely to the vibration of the soul, and it can now take on a personalized soul. So all of a sudden, this soul that's being governed by one soul governing hundreds or thousands, now we'll end up having a personalized soul. Then it'll bring in a personalized or individualized human entity. And then all of a sudden, now there's drivers in there, you know, that will participate. And then all of a sudden you see this person that was totally asleep, and didn't even have one iota of awareness, snap back on. It's like, whoa, what happened to this person? You know,
What a
because
trip.
all of a sudden they had dropped in. So I've shared maybe far too much at this point, but
No,
this
no,
is like
that's it. It's just a
freaking
trip.
amazing. This is
It is.
amazing
It's
where
a
we're
trip.
going with all of this stuff.
I picture you like get up every morning and you're reading like this interdimensional, intergalactic newspaper, and like just following everything, all the different trends, the whole 9 yards. So you got this part 3 of the trilogies coming up in 12 days.
Yep.
FrancoDiNicola.com, but there's Kimberly put up 2 links. One of them is an Eventbrite link that is for the 3rd part of the trilogy, and there's another link that takes you to the, I guess, to the archives of the previous 2.
Yeah, the teaching.
So yeah, maybe we can touch base with you before that, right before that occurs. That's on a Saturday. Now
Yes, it's
is
Saturday.
that an all day? How long does that last?
Yes, it starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and it will go till about 6 or so p.m.
Okay.
Eastern time. So it's a total with some of the breaks in between. You're talking 7 hours.
So and it's done on Zoom, I would think.
Yes, it's on Zoom and Vimeo. I run them both because some
Okay.
people doesn't work so well
Right.
with Zoom, and others don't work on Vimeo.
But I mean, it's as easy as coming on here. So for anybody
Yes, exactly.
All right, man. We look forward to many, 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 many more collaborations, and that's all I'm going to say.
Cool.
But thank you for coming in on short notice, and tell Kimberly hi.
I will. She's on board, so absolutely. She's watching with us. So
All right. We'll see you
okay,
later.
cool. Great. Take care.
Bye-bye.